Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Moira Anderson, and I am coming to you live from Crystal Bridges Museum this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us virtually for our closing talk. I want to begin the program as we do all of our programs here at Crystal Bridges Museum by offering our Indigenous peoples acknowledgement. I want to recognize Crystal Bridges' role as settlers and guests in the Northwest Arkansas region. We acknowledge the Caddo, Quapaw, and Osage, as well as the many Indigenous caretakers of this land and water. We appreciate the enduring influence of the vibrant, diverse, and contemporary cultures of Indigenous peoples. We are conscious of the role in colonization that museums have played. As cultural institutions, we have a responsibility to engage in the dismantling of historical and systemic invisibility of Indigenous peoples' past, present, and future. We choose to intentionally hold ourselves accountable to appropriate conversation, representation, connection, and education to facilitate a space of measurable change. Once again, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Whether you're tuning in here over Zoom or joining us over Facebook, we're so glad to see you here for today's closing talk. This exhibition, this closing conversation, if you've attended some of our talks in the past, may look a little bit different than those that you have attended. But then again, the exhibition Crystal Bridges at 10 is an exhibition that looks very different than some of those overall. Throughout the run of the show, our curators have taken this opportunity to feature artworks and artists in really new and inspiring ways, and this talk is going to be no different. What we're going to do this afternoon is have two of our Crystal Bridges curators, Mindy Bisa and Larissa Randall, taking you through the exhibition. They're actually positioned inside of the galleries at this moment. And we're going to feature an opportunity to hear directly from a few of the artists and community members that they have worked closely with to form the different rooms, engagements, and spots inside of the galleries. They will be your hosts this evening, so just sit back and enjoy. Mindy, Larissa, it's so wonderful to see you. Thanks for taking us through the exhibition today.
Hey everyone, I'm Mindy Bisa.
And I'm Larissa Randall.
And we're coming at you live from inside Crystal Bridges at 10. Okay, we're going to probably be a little over the top because this exhibition is over the top. We are going to embrace all of the glitches that may come at us because we're zooming across the region, including here in Crystal Bridges. Now, if you have not yet been to the exhibition, never fear, you have one more day. Tomorrow we're open from 11 to 6 and sneak away on your lunch hour. Come by, come see us. It's a great exhibition and we are sad actually to see it go. So what we're gonna do, Larissa and I are gonna, quite frankly, piggyback through the exhibition with our computers on a cart with our masks, and don't forget, we're open to the public. So you could even come by and photobomb us if you want, if you happen to be in the neighborhood. So I am gonna head on to the next one. I'm gonna let Larissa take the first thing, but first, just to emphasize what Moira said, we have a huge team here at Crystal Bridges that really enabled the success of the exhibition. Larissa and I are just two of the curatorial team that put this together. And we also want to have a shout out to
Jason Overby Jr. and Lauren Haynes. Thank you so much for working with us on this exhibition.
And we miss you. So I know you're off in Louisiana and North Carolina, but we'll come visit you. And it will be great and come back and visit us. And thanks to all the other Crystal Bridges team members who really made this exhibition just fabulous. But today we're going to turn the cameras and we're hosting and we're going to turn those cameras to the artists and community members and partners who enabled us to do this exhibition from right here in our region. So Larissa and Ziba, take it away.
Hello, Ziva. Can you hear me okay?
Hello, yeah, that's great.
I'm here at your installation in Crystal Bridges at 10. I see you're in your studio right now, right?
Yeah, I'm in my studio and yeah, it's been great.
Oh, good. Well, it was such a pleasure to work with you on this section of the exhibition, and I have so many questions for you, but first and foremost, can you just tell people a little more about this project, Glitched Home 2021, and kind of how you came about this idea?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to work on a site-specific installation in this exhibition, and we started working on this exhibition around March, and in July 10th, the exhibition starts. Before the opening of the exhibition, I prepared something around more than 2,500 squares made by a fabric and painted with acrylic. And before the opening, we installed one of the walls, and the other wall and the floor. I've been working on that for around like 6 weeks, like 2 or 3 days of the week on the on site in the museum while interacting with people and talk with viewers. And yeah, that was what it was about. And about the idea of this exhibition, I mean, this specific piece in this exhibition, it is called A Glitched Home. It's about my experience of being in contact with my family only through digital devices in last few years. So that means I've been just seeing them through screens like laptop screen or a cell phone screen, and whatever I could experience from them was through screen and also made of pixels. So I was thinking about the idea of making a home, a whole interior of a home by pixels. So that's why they are squares, and that's why they are more than 2,500. So.
Thank you. And I feel like I should raise my camera to show people sort of the floor here that you kind of built. And the floor was important to you, Ziva, because I know you often like to integrate imagery associated with tapestries and rugs into your practice. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true. I really wanted to use fabric because it is thin, it's foldable, it is I mean, it's a tactile quality is something really important for me. And also I wanted to activate the whole space. So covering the floor was a part of that. So only working on the wall wouldn't activate the place in a way that we wanted. So, and the rug that I just saw behind you, that also has a really interesting story. So there are a tiny little images that we've been like sending to each other with my family in last few years. And yeah, I just transferred those photos on this fabric and cut them again and stitch them again into a rug piece. So yeah.
Yes, of course, that's important to mention. And I know the performance aspect of this installation was something you were really excited about. So I wanted to know if you have like one anecdote from working in the galleries while the space was open to the public and how different guests interacted with you. So if you have one particularly meaningful moment or a funny story, we would love to hear it.
So it's been a really a unique experience of being there and working and at the same time talking with people, and also seeing that how viewers are excited about seeing a work being made before their eyes. So it was really interesting, and like all the comments, if I want to think about one, which is not actually one, but there was a few visitors who came and say that they understand this and they have experienced the same thing in their life, and that was really interesting for me. So I've met people from around the world that they haven't been in contact with their beloved ones in person, and they, or I mean, right now or before. So I had a couple that came and told me that they flew overseas like 60 years ago, and now when they are seeing this, they can kind of resonate with that too. So
That's beautiful. I'm glad that you like got to share that moment with someone and feel like a little bit more connected during like such a disconnected time while you were making this work. Um, I do want to answer one of the questions I saw in the chat, or pose it to you rather, elevate the question. And one of my favorite things about this work is how you decided on the colors. So could you talk a little bit about the sort of red and blue decision that you made?
yeah, so one of the things that I was thinking about the whole time that I was working in this project was to how to activate the space, because it was a site specific project. So it was about the site and about the place. So I chose color as a means to do that. And in colors, I found red a very powerful color. Because it's happy and exciting, but at the same time scary and anxious. And this kind of quality in a color of red itself could do that. But at the same time, I wanted another element to activate red. So I used blue bows to reference tiles in Iranian architecture, because this work has a lot of references to Iranian architecture, and also a blue as something and that can activate red as well. So the tension between red and blue in this installation could create a huge energy that could activate the whole space for people.
Thank you. And my last question before we move on to our next section is how important was the decision you made to use fabric in this work? Like how will that sort of shape what you do with the work after its life at Crystal Bridges?
So that's a good question. Fabric itself is something that I've been working with last few years, and because of its like natural qualities, like how thin and light it is, I can always fold it and put it in a small package and take it with myself wherever I want to move, or the work wants to move itself. So yeah, about this installation itself, there is something interesting, and that is, it is a whole like space, like two very large walls and a floor. And I mean, when I fold them and when I just deinstall them, I can put them in a package. I mean, in a very small box and move it. So in a small clip that it's on the site, actually, I said that I tried and saw that I can't fit the whole thing in the suitcase. So like thinking about how I may have to move anytime and thinking about I may have to take my works with myself was something that made me think and work with fabric. And yeah, that was about fabric too.
Great, thank you. And I know we're so lucky to have you zooming in from your studio here in Fayetteville. So I'm just gonna give you a moment if you have any sort of show and tell you want to share with anybody from your studio. I see you have more work behind you and some studies, but give you that moment.
Okay, great. Let's see. I'm going to move and actually hold this. Maybe I turn the camera. Okay. Okay. It's here. So actually, I prepared these things here because I thought maybe that's nice to see how these things are made. So this is one of those squares that I have in the installation. And these are those stamps that I made to actually print on them. So I put some of them here, and these are threads that I actually they were originally in this color. So I dyed them and painted them in different colors, and then we had to cut them in something like 6 inches or so to stitch these things together. So, and these are some of my paints. So since I use a lot of color, as you can see, so I had to make them in small, large quantity, and I had to write what are the mixtures. So, and right now I was working on a new piece of drawing here, and these are my favorite colors, and I make sure I'm hydrated. So these are some others of drawings that I have. Another larger piece of work there, very unorganized shelf over there. It's never been organized. And my plants. So it is how my studio looks like from outside, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that I should not have more greenery here. These are some other of my drawings and color studies that are inspired by Arkansas nature, and especially Mount Sequoia, because my studio is in Mount Sequoia. And this is a piece, so this is actually a sample of the work that I made before working on the whole thing for the crystal bridges. So I thought maybe that's nice to have it. So, and
oh, that's beautiful. I love that you have a little piece of the installation there with you. And thank you for the tour. I feel like I'm back in your studio with you again, Ziba.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking. And everybody watching, please feel free to ask Ziba more questions in the chat. We can revisit them at the end. But now I'm going to pass the mic to Mindy Esau, who's going to talk with our lighting designer, Sean Irish.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Larissa. Thank you, Ziba. That was fabulous. And I am now coming at you from inside a section that we've called Art and Nature. And what you'll notice, even while I'm while I'm talking to you, I am in a space that will change colors. I am also in a space that behind me will change colors. And to talk about everything that's happening here, I want to welcome Sean Irish, who is from the University of Arkansas.
Hi,
so
Mindy.
Sean,
Hi, thanks
Fabulous.
for inviting me today. Hey, I want to say that earlier you suggested that in case anything went wrong, we were just kind of going to roll with it. And so I have this just in case something starts to go awry. I have a laugh track for us. Given our variety show nature, I thought that might be appropriate today. So.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay,
You
good.
can just flat out laugh at me too, is the other thing.
I would never.
Okay, so Sean, we asked you to mimic some qualities of nature inside, and for everyone else, we are not allowed to bring plants into the museum because they also bring bugs. And so we had to figure out how else to bring nature inside the museum. And so we talked with you about light, color. There's also a soundtrack. I don't know how much of that will bleed over. And again, you can see that my day is changing, even though I am inside. So Sean, how did you even begin to interpret what we said into this space?
Thanks. That's a great question. So I think because I'm trained in the theater, we look at everything as a story. That's what we do in the theaters. We tell stories. And when you sort of brought the idea of bringing the outdoors in, I wondered how best to accomplish that. And we sort of had a number of meetings that centered around, what might it look like to be able to bring the patterns and sort of textures and colors of nature inside. And we decided early on that a very theatrical approach to the lighting of the room was going to be very appropriate, to how it might feel to the patrons walking through the room. And so I did a couple of mock-ups in a software program that we use that kind of might give you a sense of what I was thinking, and that would help us decide how do we bring in the appropriate technology, the appropriate lighting fixtures to be able to kind of create this room. And I think, this is, and sort of the lighting was twofold in the room. Not only were we sort of doing this nature indoors, outdoors in rather, but the room and the works that you curated, to bring into the room also gave me inspirations for how I might approach lighting those pieces differently. So it was kind of a two-pronged thing. The Joseph Albers painting, which is right behind you, I did a mock-up, and I think if we want to click play there, this was sort of an initial idea that I had using a couple of different light fixtures. How might we give audiences a sense of sort of what color theory, when you go to art school and when you go to theater school as well, we talk about color theory a lot. And that was sort of a very sped up, version of the video. But the Albers was something that inspired me right away to think about how I might use overlapping colors to be able to influence the colors that Albers himself used. So it gave us a sense of the shapes that are inherent in that work, and how color so dramatically influences work. And I think we see that in all of the other pieces that are around the room as well. The Remington, which is sort of the cowboy, which is a nighttime scene. I wondered what it might look like if I were to use different colors of light to influence sort of a day to night theme as well. And that's a little bit of what the room does. We have another video too, which kind of gives everybody a sense of what the whole room changeover might have felt like. And again, these were a couple of my initial ideas about, what would it look like if we were to kind of influence texture and pattern and color, and how it might feel for audiences to walk through that. Very often audiences, they sort of understand theater, and I'm sure Crystal Bridges patrons are very likely theater patrons as well. But being sort of on stage and being inside the lighting is something that maybe not a lot of people experience. And so I thought kind of letting us travel through a day with the pinks and the blues and the ambers all those lovely colors of an Arkansas day might be kind of cool to sort of walk through and feel that.
And I hope that everyone can see that the colors on the albers are absolutely changing behind me, almost in tune to your video, which was very cool. I don't know how you did that, Sean. And then, yes, the lighting. You can kind of see the floor, the speckled, as if we're seeing light through the trees.
Yeah.
And what I've observed with people walking in is they might not quite like know that it's changing right away. You have to almost give it a minute to say,
Yeah.
oh gosh, now it's sort of blue in here, and then it becomes really bright. There is definitely a time. How long does this last? Do you remember?
I think the whole program is about 4 minutes. So I think what we see on the ground is maybe 3.5 or 4 minutes. Each of the works around the room, and I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's about 4 or 5 around the room. Those each have a little bit of different timed, but more or less the whole program runs about 3.5. Each of the others run about 3 minutes each, and they sort of rotate back around to the start and kind of wait for the whole program to start again.
Yeah. And people have asked a lot what we think Joseph Albers would think of this. And this has been one of the most common questions, I would say, especially from art historians who get a little bit uncomfortable when you change the way, when you're changing the colors.
Yeah.
And I think every time, I think Joseph would think this is really darn cool. It might have even been something that he used had he could. He was teaching color theory. Like, how fun. He would have loved to have a theater like this with all those great lights and everything that you all use. Well, now, you also use this as a bit of a teaching moment, right?
I did.
Do you have students help?
Yeah, I have. I teach lighting design at the University of Arkansas in the Department of Theater, and I have 3 MFA graduate students who they're in their 2nd year now, and I brought them along to assist and to sort of help, hang the lighting fixtures, and they sort of helped us determine, what all the steps are in between. Should we go from blue to pink, or night to day, or day to night, and so they helped me a lot try to figure out, sort of how that show might run. It was really great to have their influence in it. Zach and Austin and Amanda are my lighting design MFAs.
That's great. And I should also say, on the Crystal Bridges side, we were inspired by Clay Bacher, who is our grounds person, who said to me, the seasons, the light, the difference on whether the grass is brown or green really impacts the way you see art outside. And it was like, oh, that's it. That's exactly what has sparked this whole idea.
Yeah.
So, Sean, is there anything else you want to tell us about this that someone might just miss if they came in? Any other things to add?
I think, I've been to see the show, and I think sometimes people move. There's a big dramatic change right there. It's when it goes to those ambers and it gets so bright, you really get a sense. One of the things we like to do in lighting design, it's not always. This is something I try to instill in my students as well. It's not always about how the light looks. Very often it's how the light feels. And I think you get a great sense being in that room and you feel the light changing as much as you see the light changing. And I think that's a great takeaway is, sometimes it's even before you sort of notice the colors changing, you feel that there's been a change. And that's how very often we in the theater, we try to influence, the audience. And I think we've done a similar thing, there with that installation as well.
Yeah. And actually, that really leads to one of the questions that was just asked is, can you address the way that looking at art is a two-way street, a collaboration between artist and viewer? And I think one of the things, as you said, that we've done is change the feel of what's happening here. And so I would almost add another layer. So artists, of course, make things. They're looking at all the artworks in this area, which I'm looking around and looking at them all. The artists are thinking about color, light, issues of the sunrise, the sunset, night, how do you convey these? And they can do all that they want. They can put it out there, and then it is up to the viewers to also interpret. And those artists are conveying certain feelings that then we're taking in. And then what we've done, and with your design, Sean, is add that additional layer. Almost, I mean, some might say, oh, it's a little frustrating. What does this look like in so-called regular light? But museums are interpreting and changing the way that you see art all the time. And this might just be bringing that to the foreground by actually like dramatically changing right now. Oh gosh, I wish you could all see that the darkness on the Remington was just, oh, it was so good. It's just so dark right now.
That's one of my favorites.
So we've even added to that, and, you know, being kind of conscious of your surroundings while you're looking at art, because the next gallery over here is so-called regular museum light, but it would look totally different in your living room.
Right.
You have some art or some things on your wall there, I can see. But
did
did you want to add?
back behind me, it's lighting. They're lighting fixtures. I did that, lighting fixtures as art. Yeah.
I love it.
You crystallized perfectly exactly sort of what the goal was for lighting that exhibit. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Sean, I know you're in something of a workshop, maybe. Do you have a show and tell that you want to share, or were your videos your show and tell?
Yeah, this is, I think my videos were my show and tell. This is my studio at home. I design lighting and I design scenery sometimes too. That's a little model box behind me. And so this is very often the place where you cut out all the little model parts so you can share with a director. You were the director for this particular production, I like to say. And I know you and I worked back and forth, you and Jesse and Larissa and I kind of, we gave everything framing in theatrical terms. And so you acted as the director, because very often that's, as a lighting designer, I take the direction from somebody who gives us the jumping off point, and then we sort of add our layer, to the production. And I think that's what we did with the lighting design for this Art Plus Nature.
I love it. And I am going to change my business cards to say curator and director.
You absolutely should.
Be forewarned. All right. Well, thank you, Sean, so much for that great insight. And now I'm going to kick it back to Larissa.
Hello again, everybody. So I'm sitting here in our next section of the exhibition entitled Artist Self-Portraits. And this section is really a celebration of one of the strengths of the Crystal Bridges collection, something we collected since our opening in 2011, are self-portraits by significant American artists. So in the past few years, we've done great work on the curatorial team to try to diversify our holdings of artist self-portraits, and we're celebrating some of our new acquisitions as well as some old favorites here in this section, alongside 24 portraits by young artists from the community. So we had over 500 submissions from people in the region of their self-portraits, and we selected 24 to participate, and we have some of those young artists here to talk to you all today. The first three of which are saying hello from Tulsa, Oklahoma. So Megan, if you can cue the video.
Sit up on your chair, Ariana. All right, all the nervous energy out. Okay, in 3, 2, 1, here we go. So can you please introduce yourself, starting over here?
My name is Amaya. I am 10 years old and I am from Tulsa.
My name is Amir. I'm 11 years old and I'm from Tulsa.
My name is Ariana and I am 9 years old and I'm from Oklahoma City.
Fantastic. So can you please tell me what you like about making art, starting with Amaya?
It helps me be myself. It helps me concentrate, and it's so inspirational.
That's great. Amir, why do you like making art?
Because it's fun. I get to know how creative I can be when I'm doing it.
That's great. Ariana, why do you you like making art?
It's fun.
How is it fun to you?
I don't know. It makes me happy.
It makes you happy? Great answer. So how did you all feel when you heard the news that your artwork was going to be hanging in Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art?
I was excited and I thought nobody cared about my art, but turns out somebody did.
I was happy because I never had something I created ever hanged in an art museum. Good.
Good. Ariana, how did it feel to actually be at the museum and see your artwork in person hanging in a gallery?
Happy.
Happy. And who did you go see the artwork with?
You, Miss Jeanette, and my grandpa.
That's great. And what was your favorite thing about that exhibit?
The meters.
Great. Is there anything else that you guys want to say about your artwork, or you want to tell people about your art?
No.
It made me feel excited and it was okay to me, but I thought it was not that good, but people did think it was good. And yeah, that's it.
How did that change your opinion, Amaya, seeing that a painting that you thought maybe nobody cared and nobody thought was that good actually told you, no, your painting is good and worthy to be in a museum?
It made me feel like I need to work harder because people might actually care more than you even do.
Do you think any of you would like to continue to make art as a career in the future?
Yes, I don't
Really?
know.
No. I'm more into sports.
You're more into sports. But how do you think art helps sports, Amir?
Really? Not a single.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
How does
helps your hands.
it helps your hands? What about sports art?
I get to draw like sport logos. Yeah. And football.
Yeah, something to think about. Well, do you guys want to say thank you to Crystal Bridges?
Thank you.
Wonderful. Great job, guys.
Okay, I just want to take a moment again to thank Laura Voss, the amazing art teacher who helped facilitate this little video. And shout out to these artists, Amaya, Amir, and Ariana. We're so excited to have your work featured in the exhibition, and they are scattered all across this room. But I do want to take a moment to talk to one of our artists who is on camera with us today. So please, oops, second. Okay, we can stop sharing the screen for a second. Thank you. Audrey, if you're on the call, I have a few questions for you.
Yes.
Oh, hello. Okay. I'm sitting here with your work. There you are. Hi.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for making time to talk with me today. I'm here with your artwork. I have to get a little closer to the museum lighting. But it's on view here in Crystal Bridges at 10 next to our Rosa Rwanda painting. And I have a few questions for you. I was wondering what you were thinking about when you were making this self-portrait.
When I was making this self-portrait,
Is this your first time making a self-portrait, or have you made one before?
I've never made a self-portrait before, and this was my first time doing a self-portrait, and I was really happy with the way it turned out. And making a self-portrait and knowing it got into Crystal Bridges is like a big achievement for me.
Oh, that's so sweet. I mean, I feel like we are having a big achievement by including an Audrey original in our exhibition. I know you use graphite to make this self-portrait. Is that what you typically like to make art with?
Yes.
Okay. Why do you like using graphite?
I like using graphite because it's just way more easier for me to put in a lot of details to my artwork. And especially I like pencil drawing a lot. And I've always worked with pencil on my on most of my arts.
Okay. I see you were 13 when you made this self-portrait. Are you still 13? Good, good.
No,
Okay.
I'm 14 now.
Well, happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Do you have a favorite artist, either in the Crystal Bridges collection or just broadly?
One of my favorite artists that's like around the art gallery is probably Andy Warhol and Roy Lichtenstein. I don't usually do a lot of like pop art like them, but I find their artwork and style really interesting.
Well, that's so interesting. And I know because you use pencil here, it's a black and white portrait, but do you typically like to use color like Lichtenstein and Warhol?
Sometimes I will use color. When I'm focusing with color, it's mostly watercolor. I feel like it's really easy for me to use watercolor and to like shade a lot of details.
Great. And so did you have the chance to come to Crystal Bridges and see your artwork in person?
Yes, many times.
And what was
actually.
that like? Oh, good.
My parents did take a lot of pictures with me in front of my artwork. I've taken a few friends to see my artwork as well.
Well, thank you again for lending to our exhibition. We're so excited to have your portrait on view. And I'm going to pass the mic now to Mindy, who is another young artist here to speak to everybody.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Audrey, for your time and for sharing some thoughts about having your artwork here. And I am here with Cece. And Cece, can you see that I am standing right next to your artwork? Hi, how are you doing today?
Good.
Excellent. Now, I know you have come to see your work here in person. What was it like to see art, your art, framed and hanging on the walls at Crystal Bridges?
Well, it made me feel happy because I like to share my art with people, and it's fun to have them out in the museum. Sometimes I like to pretend my art was in the museum when I was littler.
Great. And Cece, tell me how old you are.
I am 6.
Great. Now, do you like to make art all the time?
Yeah, I actually do a lot of art, and I really like making self-portraits.
Great. And is painting your favorite, or do you use other materials to make work too?
Well, I like to do painting a lot, but sometimes when I run out or I feel like doing other things, I do other things, but I like painting best.
Very good. Now, I believe you have artwork on your walls at home, and your mom even shared some pictures with us. Can we share them for everyone? Look at this. Do you want to tell me about your art gallery?
Well, this actually happened when I was littler, but I was in pre-K and I really liked to make art, and some of this art was actually from school.
That is great. I like knowing that school teachers are teaching art and giving you opportunities to make things even at school. I think we also have another artwork that you shared with us. Let's go to the next slide, Megan. There. Oh, yes. Okay. Tell me about this work, Cece.
Well, I thought about fall whenever I made this because I thought that I could make something with lace because it was almost fall. Whenever I made this, so I thought I could probably just put some leaves on it, crunched up leaves, and I also thought I should add a lot of jewels.
And is that a picture of you there in the middle?
Yeah, I tried to make it as like pretty cool, like a ball queen, pretty much. That is just me, kind of. So I kind of wrote the fall queen on it.
I love this. I love how the leaves mix with the sequins and the little flowers in the background being painted as well. Now tell me this, do you have a favorite color?
Well, I actually do. I like pink. I think it's kind of like really joyful. And
That is wonderful. Oh, keep talking.
And I also think it's a really pretty color.
Very good. Well, Cece, thank you so much for sharing your artwork with us. It has been just so much fun to have young artists on view here at Crystal Bridges. And of 500 works, we chose yours to hang here. So I'm so glad to have had it. Thank you so much for sharing, and I hope you have a great rest of your fall. Please enjoy all those wonderful leaves.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, Cece and Larissa. I'm going to turn it back over to you. Okay, I feel like I have to give everyone a little tour until we hear from Larissa in the next room. I'll just stand next to Evan Penny. Young self, old self. Okay, over to Larissa.
Working. Okay. Can you turn the fuzzy back on? Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Great. Looks great. Thank you, Moira. Okay, shout out to Moira for making this work. So Mindy's on her way, but we're sitting outside a beautiful 4-room installation designed by American artist Mark Dion. The installation is called Elemental Collection. It's 4 distinct rooms organized loosely by the themes air, earth, water, and fire in connection to the 4 elements. And this collection wouldn't be possible without the support from our partners at the University of Arkansas. So I do have to give a shout out to Mary Sutter, Ernie, and Mariah. Thank you so much for all of your help. And then I also have here Ashley Dowling from the Entomology Collection. Ashley, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Hi. So I know a lot about you from our pre-work with Mark for the exhibition, but could you tell people a little bit about your role at the University of Arkansas?
So I'm a professor in the Department of Entomology and Plant Pathology. And so a lot of I teach an introduction to entomology course, so sort of broad overview of insects, and then do a lot of research. A lot of it's focused on biodiversity of insects. And so we spend a lot of time looking at a lot of different things. And so a lot of our stuff goes into I'm at the University Arthropod collection here, which thanks to Mindy, we're now going to call the Bug Vault for now on, because it sounds more mysterious and expensive. And so this is where we sort of house all of our insects that we use for research mostly. It's not typically meant for art displays, things like that. But we have about 500,000 insects in this room, back in drawers and cabinets behind me. So.
And from the specimens that you've loaned for this exhibition, are they from your personal collection or from the University of Art collection, or both?
Yeah, so most of it is from my personal collection. So although we have 500,000 insects back there, so I have an example here. I'll just show you quick. So this is what most of the drawers look like. You can see there's lots of them and not so flashy, and most of them are very small. And so while there's a wealth of insects behind me, there's not a lot of choices there that may be good for an installation in a museum. So I pulled from my own collection and things that we'd also acquired as sort of for teaching material to sort of show examples of bigger flashy insects from the tropics and things that we don't typically see in Arkansas.
I do love the first selection of bugs that you put in the first room, because they're in the air room. So they all are winged travelers, from what I understand.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite on view?
So I tried to pick things that were going to be large and catch people's attention. But there's also a lot of smaller insects in there that I chose either because of maybe some color patterns on them that people might sort of latch onto, or other features of them. And my favorite, I did that art night out where I was there with the Ask Me button, and everyone could come by and ask. And so that was a common question: what's my favorite? And I would say what I told most people was it's on sort of in the middle on the left. I don't know how to. It's sort of on the far left of the picture there on the screen, and it's got some big eye spots on it. So if you go over left, right there, that one. And so that one's often it's a tropical insect, and it's got lots of different common names like peanut head bug, things like that, because of that sort of peanut shape on the top of it there. And what I told people is that that particular bug, so that whole peanut shape in the front of it is actually a fake head. So its actual eyes and mouth parts are below that. And when you see this thing alive in profile, that peanut shape actually looks like a lizard head. So there's coloration for like an eye and teeth that go all the way around it. And so the whole point is to startle a predator into thinking that, oh, maybe this is something bigger that might eat me or bite me back. So it has that, but then it also, if you still harass it, it will jump straight up in the air, and it shows those big eye spots on its wings, which are also supposed to scare a predator away. And then it makes sort of a ridiculously loud noise. And so it sort of overdoes it. It throws the kitchen sink at a predator when it's trying to scare the predator away. Obviously, it didn't work against me because I caught that in Costa Rica one time, and so I knew its game. But yeah, that's probably one of my favorites, just because it's such an unusual thing, and just the lengths it goes to try and to defend itself.
Okay, I love that you describe it as overdoing it, because I feel like this section of the exhibition is us going as over the top as possible while still getting away with it. And I particularly love this section and the conversation between the wings of the butterflies and the wings of the Benjamin West painting. I've had a lot of great conversations on tours with people first noticing the birds in the Benjamin West painting for the first time, so that's really special. Could you tell us the sort of through line that you used when designing the layout for the birds in the earth, or for the bugs in the earth
section?
Oh,
Maybe
for
a
the,
little bit of it. Thank you.
yeah, so that I just tried to get a good cross section of. So I went beyond insects, and so there's spiders in there and scorpions, and um, just tried to get a good sort of cross section of the diversity of things that are out there. And you know, the idea being that, so when I did it, I didn't know that there was going to be an art night out thing where I could actually, you know, answer questions for people. So I tried to put in a lot of things that would just capture their attention and maybe get them to wonder, you know, what is that thing and what is that bug, and you know, especially because the whole exhibit there's no you know, there's no identification labels on anything, which talking to some friends who do similar things to me, they didn't like it because we're so obsessed with always having a name on everything. But I actually liked the fact that nothing was labeled, because I think it made people just, it sort of, there was even more wonderment there about, you know, what is that and where does it live, and you know, can I find it in Arkansas, or do I have to go to the tropics? And you know, it is sort of just, it generates lots of questions, hopefully. And so yeah, I just tried to get a bunch of different things, obviously larger, more colorful things. I also didn't know how close people would be able to get to the exhibit when sort of putting it all together. And so I tried to stick with larger things that just in case, you know, it was sort of like standard museum fare where you had to stay 6 feet away or whatever. So I'm actually glad that people could get really up close and personal with these things, because then they could see a lot more of the color and sort of amazing detail, and the way that a lot of the insects reflect light in different ways. So you catch it from different angles and you'll see different color patterns. And so it was a great exhibit. Like, I think you guys should overdo it all the time.
I think so too. So I'm glad to hear you're enthusiastic about it. My last question for you is, what does it feel like to see your specimen collection on view in an art museum?
It was a lot of fun. You know, I like, so I'm obviously always a big proponent of natural history and getting people out and looking at things, and just, there's so many amazing things around us. And you know, you don't see it a lot in a museum, in like a museum like Crystal Bridges. You know, I'm used to, you go to a natural history museum to see specimens and like all the stuffed birds and the skeletons. And you know, if you go to Crystal Bridges, you might see natural history, but it's embedded in a painting. And so just the opportunity to actually have real specimens out there to show sort of the amazing diversity that's out there. I mean, I loved looking at all the birds and skeletons and everything else that were in the exhibit too. But it's just so having the opportunity to get sort of insect diversity and natural history out there in an art museum where you typically wouldn't see it. But yet I feel like Crystal Bridges has a big connection with nature, just the way that the museum is put into the landscape. And so I think it all fits really well together.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And thank you so much, Ashley, for taking time to talk to me today. It was so good working with you on this project, and we'll definitely have to keep working with you moving forward.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Passing it back to you, Mindy, to talk about our community conversation.
All right. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Larissa. I love that somehow I influenced the name of your museum to be the Bug Hall. And I also love that you corrected us that it wasn't all insects in there. So I can't tell you how much I've learned. So I love it. Okay, we're at our final guest for the day. And so Brandon, are you on the line? We'll bring you in. Okay, wonderful. So I'm trying to position myself. We're actually in the moment where you would first encounter the exhibition. And I just have to put a little prop up. We've actually got a lot of people in here right now, photobombing into our program. So welcome everyone who is here. You are in our live video program. They don't really care. Okay. So here we are. Brandon, tell us a little bit about yourself. Why don't you introduce yourself to the rest of the audience?
Okay, well, my name is Brandon Watts. I'm the owner of B Watts Photography and also Studio 479 located here in Springdale, Arkansas. I'm a self-taught photographer that went full-time October 2017, had the grand opening of my studio May 2018, and now I'm in Crystal Bridges.
Wonderful. And I'll just give a little context for those that haven't seen this part of the exhibition yet. We took Rosie the Riveter, standing behind me, and used it as an opportunity to really celebrate our community. So shout out to Aaron Shelton of Finding Northwest Arkansas and a whole group that came together to help us identify what we're calling community champions. Then we called Brandon and said, we need some photos. So Brandon, will you please work with the sitters to capture them in any way that they want? And Brandon, I think we were going to talk about, especially, and I'll try to move a little closer. It's always really hard. Your work is so beautiful and the screen makes it nice and fuzzy. But the photograph right behind me of Undow Colby, which is at a waterfall. Can you tell us a little story about capturing this image?
Yeah, so with capturing everyone, I'm real big on trying to make sure that their personality shows in the photograph. So with everybody I called, we had a quick 5-10 minute conversation to sort of talk about like, hey, who are you? Like, what represents you? So when I spoke with her, she was saying, you know, she likes nature and waterfalls. So we was like, oh, well, we should go to Tanya Creek in Bella Vista and do the photo shoot. Then she also said, she was like, well, I have tattoos. I don't know if you want me to cover it up. I was like, no, the tattoos are you. So, you know, I want you to come completely comfortable what people would see you in on a regular day and just, you know, just come and be yourself. And when we sat there and got everything set up with the light and I took the photograph, it's really like, that's one of the first images I took. Like, after I took the image, I was like, oh, shoot, I think we're done. I think we have it. Like, but we still saw some more. But yeah, it's just great, you know, getting to know everybody and meeting all the different personalities, and then her just coming, just being herself and being able to capture, you know, who she was, her personality, to her style, the way she dressed, everything. It was a great experience for the both of us.
Now that is so great. And I also know that they are a photographer as well. I wonder if you got into any of that in your conversations. What is it like to photograph another photographer?
That's one thing we got in. We did speak about that because a lot of photographers don't like being in front of the camera. She's more like used to being behind the camera. And she even spoke like, you know, when we have another photographer take our photograph, we're real picky and we want to do everything. But like when I took her photograph, it's like, wow, you like did such a great job, and I feel like you really captured me better than anyone ever has. So I was like, you know, it made me feel special because I was like, you know, I always get, anytime I photograph another photographer, I always get nervous because I know I was like, okay, they bet to critique my work. So, but yeah, so I was happy that she loved it. And I was telling her, like with me, I like being in front of the camera. It's weird for me when I started doing photography, getting behind the camera. So every time I take a picture of somebody else and it's a really great shot, a little part of me gets jealous because I'd be like, oh man, it should have been me.
Well, speaking of photography and being behind the camera, do you want to give us a little glimpse into your studio? Because you are calling in from your studio, correct?
Yes, I am at my studio right now. I'm inside the office. I'm going to flip my camera around so you can get a view. So this is the office, Studio 479. And then when you walk in, it's a nice space. It's 2,400 square feet. So we have a nice, large space, dressing room for makeup, hair. Yeah, the bathroom, my mirror. Everybody likes my mirror right here. You look fine. And then, yeah, it's just a nice, large space. Got a sight wall, different color background, a wood wall that's actually 3D and textured. So you can actually see. Little area where I keep wine and drinks and water and stuff like that. And then this is sort of show how large the space is. I pulled in my car because we can also do car photography. And we have a lot of commercial clients come and pull in cars over here. So, yeah. So that's the inside of the studio, Studio 479, located in Springdale. It's my happy place.
I love that. No, it's so great. And the other thing, I think you have some other photographs to show us, and especially because I'm certainly in the gallery with your work, but like I said, they look a little fuzzy through my camera. Do you have a little show and tell for us?
I do. So I focus on fine art portraits where, this regular, I feel like everybody can have great pictures taken of themselves, even, this personal. And I feel like even if it's hanging in crystal bridges or hanging on inside their homes, that everybody can have artwork and they should see themselves as artwork. So here I have what I call my watch portfolio box. Um, that's Natasha, who the actress at Theater Square. But this box holds photographs too, so you can actually put it on a coffee table. And then on the inside of it, it holds photographs. So then if you want to put them in a frame, you can easily put it in a frame. You can keep it in the case, and it holds 20. And here's just some of the photographs that I've taken, so everybody can get a look.
Those are amazing.
And I also
Thank you for laying some of those out. So you obviously go out into nature or respond to the whims and desires of your clients. And so it's such a good thing to see so many options. So Brandon, what was it like for you to have your photographs at Crystal Bridges and to see them hanging here?
It was awesome and amazing. Like I always wanted to be in Crystal Bridges and have my work on the wall. So this being, it's just a national standing museum, international standing museum. It's just awesome. And I went to the exhibit several times. I went to the sponsor preview. I went during the art night. I went a couple of other times. Took pictures of it on the wall and recorded it on the wall. So it's very, nice being able to see my work being in there, and then just all the overwhelming compliments from the community and just others just telling me how great it was. So, it's definitely something to be proud of, and, hopefully we have more stuff that can be exhibited there.
I love it. Well, Brandon, it was a pleasure working with you. And I know that the subjects also were really happy with what happened, your magic in your photographs. So thank you so much for doing that. And thanks for spending some time with us today, all the way from Springdale.
Yeah, have a nice day.
Thanks, Brandon. And now, speaking of the subjects of Brandon's photographs, tomorrow night there is an excellent conversation with the community members who were featured in Brandon's photographs. So I just highlight this for all of you because we couldn't talk to all of the community members that made this exhibition happen, but you can hear directly from them tomorrow evening at 5:30, and there is a link that's been dropped in the chat. So you don't even have to look it up. You can just click on that link and go ahead and register. So I'm going to call Larissa back in, and we're going to wrap it up. I haven't seen any other questions in the chat. There we go. And hopefully our computers won't fight each other. This is what happens. We're both walking around with laptops, hopefully not making anyone sick with the jiggles. So thank you all so much for joining us at Crystal Bridges at 10. Thank you for helping us celebrate our 10th anniversary, for letting us use all of these great minds and community collaborators to show how much we just value you as a community, as an audience. Please come back and see the exhibition tomorrow. Join our community champions in the evening. Larissa, final word?
Thank you to everyone who made this possible.
Okay, thank you all. We went a little over your time. Thanks for spending your afternoon with us. And that's a wrap.